Hello, this is Holland, otherwise known as the Astari. Today on the channel, I am going to be reviewing some comic books. You guys seem to like it when I talk about comic books, and honestly, I've been reading them. Been reading plenty of other things. It's the pandemic, so not much else to do but read, play video games, do some other stuff I can't really talk about. But I can talk about this. One of my favorite fantasy series, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You're probably thinking, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Isn't that steampunk? It's like, oh no, it's a fantasy. This actually is a shared universe of all the literary works and like other things in pop culture. It starts out with Mina Murray from Dracula. She teams up with Alan Quartermain, Captain Nemo, Edward Hyde, and the Invisible Man. It's a great team. First one, they're all in awe of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is also worked into this series. Everybody's in awe of Holmes, as they should be. Anyway, there's like really great artwork in this series. It is by the great Kevin O'Neill. This series is written by Alan Moore. Yes, that Alan Moore. He also wrote things like Saga of the Swamp Thing, V for Vendetta, Watchmen. You probably know the movies, you should really read the books. I would highly recommend this, though. This is more for adult age audiences, but if you have a kid that is into more mature stuff, I would suggest you read it first, then decide if it's for him. As you can see, like the first one is sort of an adventure. Has to do with them like going after the element cavorite, I think is how you pronounce it. It's an element that allows you to fly, because back then you really couldn't fly. It's like an element that allowed you to fly was very valuable. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 2, The Further Adventures. At the end of the first one, they kind of hinted at this book, and in this book, like, you get to see, like, Mars. You get to see Mars attacks. Not like the Tim Burton, like, Topps trading card Mars attacks, but yeah. Mars attacks in this book, and, like, it's up to the League to stop them. Again, like, this is really good. As with, like, all of these, there are short stories and, like, text in the back of these, so, like, if you want to read a short story or some text, journal notes, books, whatever, it'll explain more of the world as you read it, so I'd highly recommend reading those. Anyway, this is essentially where the original team comes to its end. I'm not really spoiling much, because as you can see, flashes forward to the 1950s with the Black Dossier. This is probably Moore's weakest work. Not because of the story and what he's written. It's obviously great. It's just, let me show you just a second. As you can see, starts out, like, as a comic book and, like, some advertisements. But as you think you're reading the comic book and stuff, ultimately it comes to, like, a bunch of text. And the thing is, that wouldn't be so bad, but the problem is, like, the flow is broken up throughout the book. So you're thinking you're reading a comic, and then you switch to a book, and then like once you're used to the book, it switches back to a comic. And I like the book, I like what it says, but ultimately I feel the pacing is broken up, and Moore uses very flowery language during the last panels to describe something I didn't think really deserved the flowery language to say. But still, it's an essential piece of reading for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I thought it was okay, and that's some pretty harsh words for Alan Moore, saying it was okay. Anyway, here is Volume 3, Century. This takes place from 1910 to 2010, and this is a good book. The whole thing is about them spending a century trying to stop the Antichrist from arriving. It's like, Mina does LSD. It wouldn't be an Alan Moore comic without somebody doing LSD at some point. And like when Alan Moore writes stories that take place before LSD was invented, he finds something else for the characters to take. Not going to go into it too much, but if you're wondering like what the connection is between Alan Moore and LSD, look up Alan Moore. Like you'll get your answer. I'm not going into it right now. But yeah, this is like a really good book. As you can see, like it's a lot of pages, so much story. It actually took me about 2 or 3 sessions of reading just to finish this. Anyway, the Antichrist does show up in the book. You're not going to guess who it is, but once you read it, it's like, I should have guessed. This is a really good book. I would highly recommend it. And then finally, there was the last one. The Tempest. I really like this book too. It's not because it's like a movie or anything. Like a lot of Alan Moore's work is usually very cinematic. This is not trying to do that. This book is like the ending of Alan Moore's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen run. It took me about 16 years of reading and collecting to finally collect this final book, his final book. And what I like about it is a celebration of comic books and what only comic books can achieve. So it's not like a celebration of books, it's not a celebration of movies, it's a celebration of comic books. And I like that. As you can see, like on the covers and like a lot of the other things, like there's an abundance of question marks. I don't know why, I've just started noticing them. There's a bunch of question marks throughout the books. Anyway, what I really like, this being Alan Moore's last comics, he really rails against the superhero industry. He really rails against superheroes. In fact, like, one of my favorite remarks he makes is a rather pointed remark when he says the first Masked Avenger film ever filmed in America was D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. That's pointed. That's very pointed, and as much as I know about film, I can't say that he's wrong. I really can't say that he's wrong, which kind of depresses me. But, you know, Alan Moore does a really good job with this comic. Bang-up job. Yeah, so if you're into Alan Moore, if you know about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen only from the movie, do yourself a favor and pick up the book, because the book is far different and far better than the movie. And I'm spraying. I'm totally spraying right now. But that's just because I'm so excited about this book. I'm going to see, yeah. As you can see, it's like, this only achieves what a comic book can achieve. Like, and that was the whole point of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was never meant to be a movie. As you can see, like in the Black Dossier and the Tempest, it comes with these 3D glasses. Again, like I know you can put on 3D glasses in a movie, but you know, again, like as I was showing you throughout this, like it only does what a comic book can do, and I love it for that. Yeah, so that is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I do not have the Nemo trilogy. I'm going for that next, but like with the comic book industry the way it is during this time, I'm not sure like if I can get it or not, or if it will be cheaper, if it was always near $200. I don't know, but I really want to read Tempest now. It has, not Tempest, I read Tempest. I'm wanting to read the Nemo trilogy. The Nemo trilogy looks really good, really appealing. I just haven't read any of it. But again, with Alan Moore, there's very few writers like Alan Moore, especially in the comic book industry. So like the cool thing is with Alan Moore is when you buy an Alan Moore comic, you know you're getting something good. When you buy a Carl Barks comic, you know you're getting something good. So yeah, those are the two guarantees I can give. If you're into writing, I would highly recommend reading a lot of comic books, particularly Carl Barks and Alan Moore. It's probably some other comic books, but as I was saying, I'm reviewing League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and that is probably one of the best fantasy series I've ever seen. I'm spraying again, but I don't care. It's one of the best fantasy series I've ever seen. I've ever read, actually. I don't really read many fantasy series. I really should read more. And, like, more shows me I should be reading more. And I have been reading more. Both Alan Moore and more books. And Alan Moore books. Just frick. Okay, well, this is Holland Timmons. If you have anything to say, like if you want to add any Alan Moore comics that you liked, do you have anything to say about Alan Moore? Do you like him? Do you not like him? Please comment below. It would help. Like, share, subscribe. Trying to do this more often. I only get a chance to film once a week, and sometimes I don't even get to film on that day, so trying more. Know that. Okay, this is Holland Timmons, the Astari signing out. Peace.
Hey, mister, give me $1. Come on. Hey, mister, how about it? $1. You deaf? You don't speak English.